Today we celebrate the 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time, and our first reading, taken from the book of Deuteronomy, focuses on the foundation of our relationship with God. Moses wanted the people to first hear what he was going to say, to hear the Word of God, to hear the statutes and decrees which Moses would give to his people. And he laid the foundation for this relationship with God. And the foundation is very simple. What great nation is there that has God so close to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon Him? Or what great nation has statutes and decrees that are as just as this whole law which I am setting before you today? God being so close to Israel that whenever Israel would call upon God, God would always be there for Israel. And that is the foundation of their relationship with God. It is a relationship of gratitude. It is a relationship of thanksgiving. And the foundation of our relationship with God is exactly that gratitude for the many blessings that God has given us. And therefore, we look at everything, we recognize everything as gift that comes from God, and therefore our relationship with Him is based on our response of love, our response of gratitude. Then our second reading, taken from the letter of James, gives us a very important dynamics, also a very important way of relating to God. True religion, according to St. James, is pure and undefiled. Pure and undefiled. Why? Because pure religion is this: to care for orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. True religion, for St. James, is a matter of responding to the needs of my brothers and sisters. Faith without action is dead. Faith without good works is dead. And that's St. James. And therefore, in our gospel for today, Jesus was being confronted by the Pharisees with some scribes who had come from Jerusalem. And the Pharisees and the scribes questioned the Lord, "Why do your disciples not follow the tradition of the elders, but instead eat a meal with unclean hands?" They were talking about uncleanness, but in terms of externalities, with unclean hands. Jesus wanted to go deeper. Jesus told His disciples to go into their hearts, not just about the hands. Religion is not just about washing and purification, cleansing of hands, but cleansing of the heart. And this is something very important because religion is oftentimes very external. Religion is about a set of doctrines, a set of rituals, and also a set of moral conduct. And it could be a very external thing. But deeper than the practice of religion is our love for God. And that should be found in the heart. Because of this, many of our Protestant brothers and sisters would make a distinction between religion and spirituality. They would say, oh, you may be religious, but you are not spiritual. And that comes from the time of, you can trace that back to the time of Schleiermacher, to the time of Bultmann, and up to our time. They're talking about spirituality. Oh, you're just religious, but you are not spiritual. And oftentimes, born-again Christians would say, you Catholics, you are just religious, but you are not spiritual. And therefore they would say, oh, let us say no to religion. Let us say yes to spirituality, but no to religion. But wait. Religion is really about our relationship with God. It was Lactantius who said that religion comes from re-eligere, to choose again. Or it could come from re-leggere, to read again, to read the scriptures all over again. Or religare, meaning to bind oneself again. To bind oneself again with whom? With God. Religion is relationship. Many born-again Christians, fundamentalists would say, oh, you have to have a deeper relationship with your God, and therefore no to religion, yes to relationship. But religion is itself relationship. It comes from the Latin words religare, religere, or re-eligere, according to Lactantius. And therefore, when we say religion, we are talking about a real relationship. In fact, there is such a thing as the virtue of religion. And what is that virtue of religion? If there is what we call a virtue of justice, giving to each one what each one deserves, the virtue of religion tells us to give to God what God deserves. Now, giving to God what God deserves means giving to God our all because He deserves our all. And what deeper relationship can be found outside religion? The virtue of religion tells us to give to God what God deserves. And God deserves our all. Not just our worship, but also our conduct, our behavior, our relationships, but also our hearts, our love, our practice of religion. So we do not succumb to that kind of distinction between religion and spirituality, because religion is in fact a virtue of giving to God what God deserves. And that means we go into that kind of relationship of love out of gratitude, which is based on the foundation of the recognition that everything is gift. St. James therefore tells us that everything, our faith, our belief system, will have to be oriented to our neighbor, especially the ones in need, the orphans, the widows. Then that is the practice of religion. Then that is the practice of our faith. Then that is spirituality. The spirituality that makes our hands dirty because we are doing the dirty works, the dirty job of love. Loving makes our hands dirty. And therefore, religion is not just about cleansing our hands, but it is precisely dirtying our hands because you do the works of love. You do the works of love. You want to clean your room, you want to clean your house, then your hands will be dirty. But why do you clean your house? It is not because simply that you want to live and maybe you want to sanitize, you want to disinfect your house. More than that, because you love your family. You're doing the works of love, and love makes our hands dirty. The scribes and the Pharisees focus on the dirty hands. oh, you're eating with unclean hands. But these dirty hands really come from work. These dirty hands come from the heart that gives thanks to God, that does the dirty works of love, the dirty jobs of love, because love makes our hands dirty. And therefore, Jesus would go a little bit deeper than that, deeper than just the cleansing of hands. Go back to your heart. And that is why towards the end, Jesus would say, nothing that enters one from outside can defile the person, but the things that come out from within are what defile. And from within, Jesus would say, from their hearts come evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly. All of these come from the heart. And therefore, sin is not something geographical that you transfer from one place to another because this place is sinful and you've got to go to another place which is more holy, and which is more sacred. No. Sin is moral. It is not geographical. It is moral. It is one's consent to the temptation. And if you say yes to temptation, yes to evil, then you commit sin. And where does that consent come from? From your heart. For which reason, Jesus underlines the heart more than the external traditions. You know, there is something very good about traditions. You see, there are two components of tradition. The first component has to do with the one that is being handed on. The practice, the observance that is being handed on, maybe the teaching that is being handed on. We call that in Latin the traditum, what is being handed on. What is being handed on. And the scribes and the Pharisees focused on the object of tradition, what is being handed on. And so, without that framing of what Moses said, that we have to recognize the Lord and we have to say yes to the commandments of God, not because they restrict us, not because we just have to observe them for the sake of observing them, but we observe the commandments of God out of our gratitude. We recognize the giftedness of each one, but also we recognize the gifts that God has bestowed upon us. Now, if we do not recognize that framing that from Moses, then we will just be focusing ourselves on the object of tradition, handing on for the sake of handing on. And we learn this from our elders, from our fathers, and therefore we just hand this on to the next generation. And that is what you call the object of tradition. But there is something deeper than that. We focus on the word traditio. The traditio is the process of handing on. Meaning to say, it is the process that includes the past and the present. Like each one of you, each one of us, is a bundle of traditions. Each one of us is a bundle of experiences, insights, encounters with people, encounters with places, sacred places, profane places. And that therefore, we are a bundle of experience. And therefore, we bring with us, whether we like it or not, we bring with us our own tradition. Why? Because we are a living tradition, all of us. Because we go into that process. And when we say process, the traditio is the movement of handing on. So that every moment of our life forms part of us. And that therefore the Pharisees and the scribes, having encountered Jesus, should make Jesus a part of themselves. Jesus is giving them something new, or maybe something deeper than just the cleansing of hands. They should have been transformed. They should have been so grateful to the Lord and say, thank you for teaching us that there is something more to religion than just the externalities, the observances. That religion has something to do with giving our all to God. Giving to God what God deserves. Religion is a virtue. And therefore, there is no such distinction between you are religious but not spiritual. No, the virtue of religion tells you to give to God what God deserves.